Good morning and welcome to this licensing subcommittee to determine an application for the grant of a premises licence for Fire Away Pizza on the 26th of July 2022. The first order of business is the election of chair. Please can I have any nominations? Could I have a seconder for that, please? Sorry, can I have a seconder for the motion for Jenny Barnes to be appointed the chair? Sorry, can I have a seconder for the proposal that... Thank you. Can I vote on that, please? Yes. Thank you. That motion is carried. Councillor Barnes.
Thank you. Right, welcome to today's meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. This is a public meeting and members of the public and press are permitted to report on the proceedings. Reporting includes filming, photographing, making an audio recording and providing commentary on proceedings. Please note that this meeting is recorded and streamed live. These recordings are published on the relevant meeting page of the Council's website. By choosing to attend this public meeting, you are deemed to have given your consent to being filmed or recorded and for any footage to be broadcast or published. If the alarm sounds, the premises must be evacuated immediately. Do not spend time collecting personal belongings. All emergency escape routes are clearly signed, and once you've left the building, the assembly point is on the High Street opposite the Guildhall. Members and other speakers are reminded to use their microphone when speaking. Thank you. Presentations to this subcommittee are not given under oath. However, I would like to remind all parties that the highest standards are expected and any deviation from those high standards could possibly influence any decision of the subcommittee. We've got Fire Away Pizza. Do you want to introduce ourselves? You've just done that, you've got all. Just for information, I've got two councillors with me today, Lucy Hodgson and Stephen Hodgson. And if the other people around the room could introduce themselves, that would be great.
Ryan Keat, Legal Services.
EC Joe Brooks, Licensing Officer, West Mercia Police.
Sergeant Simon Hallam, Licensing Sergeant for West Mercia Police.
Harbinder Sahota, owner of Fireway Worcester.
John Hutchinson, property owner of 7 to 9 Angel Street.
Vicky Jones, Technical Licensing Officer at Worcestershire Regulatory Services.
Niall McMenamin, Principal Officer Licensing, Worcestershire Regulatory Services, and I'll be presenting the report on behalf of the Council today.
Right. Obviously, there are two of you here, the applicant and the landlord. Is that, are you both going to speak or what is the situation, please?
Yeah, if I could just kind of give some background to that. So I'm actually the landlord who actually put in a letter of support for the application. Harry owns Fire Away Pizza, but his subject matter expert, unfortunately, who's also going to help support him, has gone down with COVID. So what I've actually said, I will kind of support him as much as I can, because if you can appreciate, it's all a bit daunting in here, in the big table and everything going forward.
So you will help represent
Yes.
Mr. Sahota?
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, all parties are limited to 10 minutes to make their representations. So I don't think you'll probably need that long.
Sorry, Chair, can I just remind you to do declarations of interest before we go into the substantive application?
Okay. Thank you. I stand corrected. Any declarations of interest?
No.
No? No. Okay. Thank you. I much appreciate that, Ryan. Right. It goes to the licensing officer then to make an initial statement.
Thank you, Chair. Just before we start, I have a document which is basically part of the application form. We've noticed that a page is missing. I think it was missed when transferring the information across to be printed. It's conditions that have been put forward by the applicant as part of the application, so it is important that you see them. What I've done, it was handwritten, as the application is, but I've just simply printed it off in printed form for everybody to see. Also, I just need to confirm that everybody has received a copy of the police presentation, which are the statistics, and also submission from Mr. Sahota prior before, which again is an assisted operating schedule, similar to the information I've just put forward. One thing I haven't established though, Chair, is whether Mr. Sahota wants this operating schedule, should a licence be granted, to be included as conditions on his licence, and that's something we can maybe talk about when the time's appropriate.
Give you a sort of background to...
No, just asking questions of the licensing officer at this point, please.
No, if you could just guide us through the process, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Chair, members, if you turn to page 1 of your report pack, this is an application for a new premises licence in respect of a business called Fireaway Pizza. So the purpose of the report today, you're asked to consider and determine an application for the grant of a new premises licence in respect of Fireaway Pizza. A bit of background, which may assist, is on the 1st of June of this year, an application was received by the licensing authority from F War Limited for the grant of a premises licence in respect of Fireaway Pizza, which is located on number 7 to number 9 Angel Street in Worcester City Centre. The application contained all of the prerequisite documents, the fee, and also a plan of the premises. We can confirm that the application has been advertised in accordance with the legislation and the requirements of the Licensing Act and assorted regulations, and has also been served as required on all of the responsible authorities. So a copy of the application is attached to your report packet Appendix 1. And part of that report pack, basically what I circulated beforehand, should really slot in between page 19 and 20. That is where it sits. So the applicant is applying for the following licensable activities. It's late night refreshment, and that's every day between the hours of 11 and 5 a.m. And also the playing of recorded music, again, every day between 11:30 in the morning and 5 a.m. So, members, in response to the application and the public notices, the licensing authority has received a representation from West Mercia Police. A copy of the representation is attached in your papers at Appendix 2. So the representation expresses concerns in relation to increased levels of antisocial behaviour and noise pollution, citing that the grant of a premises licence on this occasion would undermine the prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance licensing objectives. So the police have put forward that the area is an antisocial hotspot, and when appropriate, they will have their opportunity to put forward their case. Other persons. So again, in response to the public notices, the council didn't receive any representations objecting to the premises licence. So it's merely the police who have put forward a representation objecting to the premises licence. However, the council has received a representation in support of the application, and that representation is from Mr. John Hutchinson, who's present today. So he's he can certainly put forward or amplify his representation when the time is appropriate. So Mr. Hutchinson has said that the Fireaway Pizza will substantially aid the regeneration of Angel Street and late night opening, will curb much of the antisocial behaviour in this part of Worcester due to the state-of-the-art CCTV system which is being installed. The representation cites that the grant of a premises licence will promote the prevention of crime and disorder and licensing objectives, so they've tailored it to those licensing objectives. So those are the representations that we have. So we have one from the police, which is objecting to the grant of the licence, and one from Mr. Hutchinson, which is in support of the applicant. And they're both here to support their representations. When considering this application, you need to go on and consider the local policy considerations. The licensing subcommittee should have regard to the council's statement of licensing policy, which is published under the Licensing Act and is freely available on the council's website. I'm sure you'll be fully aware of the council's licensing policy, but to assist you members, the council's licensing policy on page 25 refers to the special policy which has been adopted by the council on cumulative impact. Now, cumulative impact is the concentration of certain types of premises in a particular area, which are likely to undermine the licensing objectives. So this application has been submitted for a premises which will fall within that special policy of cumulative impact. So other considerations have to be given when considering the application. In accordance with the special policy, any application for the grant of a premises licence or for the grant of a variation or existing licence, which would add to the cumulative impact, so this is a late night refreshment licence for an area which is an antisocial hotspot within the city centre, which is part of the cumulative impact policy. The starting point, so when considering this, is refusal. As we received an objection from the police, the starting point is refusal. So really it is for the applicant to demonstrate in their presentation how granting a premises licence, first of all, wouldn't add to any other problems in that particular area. So it wouldn't add to antisocial behaviour or noise pollution. But actually they have to go one step further and demonstrate how it will actively promote the licensing objectives. Again, crime and disorder and public nuisance. And they will have their opportunity to do so in a second. The legal implications are contained within your report. You have to determine this application with a view to promoting the licensing objectives. And again, you're familiar with the licensing objectives, but I'll just run through them very quickly. These are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. But the two you're concentrating on today are the prevention of public nuisance and the prevention of crime and disorder, because those are the ones that have been cited in the representations. I've mentioned the licensing policy. You also have to have regard to the Secretary of State's guidance, the 182 guidance, which is published as guide for the Licensing Act. So when considering this application, you must take one or more of the following steps. And these must be appropriate in order to promote the licensing objectives. You can grant the licence as requested. So having heard all of the evidence today, it's within your gift to grant the licence as applied for. You have the opportunity to modify the conditions of the licence by altering, omitting or adding to them. So it's within your gift today, it's part of your determination to take away licensable activities, change the time, add further conditions. Those are the things that we are talking about when we talk about adding extra conditions, which are appropriate to uphold the licensing objectives. Or finally, you can reject the application. What you must bear in mind is that you can't, or it isn't your position to modify the application just because you think it desirable to do so. It must be with a view to promoting the licensing objectives. So any decision that you take today is with a view to promoting those licensing objectives. Any party aggrieved by the decision of this committee has a right of appeal to the magistrates' courts. So that's the applicant and also the objectors, which on this case are West Mercia Police. The hearing must be conducted with the agreed procedures which you have, and everybody circulated them as part of the report. So members, in summary, you're asked today to consider and determine the application for a new premises licence, taking into consideration the representations that have been received. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Right. Do you have any queries?
I don't think so at the moment.
Neil explained it, now explained it very clearly.
Sorry, Chair. It's just been pointed out to me that points 2 and 3 on the hearing procedure haven't been read out. 2 is in relation to legal representation, and 3 is just to remind parties about that they have 10 minutes.
I've done the 10-minute one, and we did talk about representation.
Oh, sorry, my apologies.
But thank you.
Thank you.
You need to get it right. Okay. So, the next part, by the look of it, on my version of the running order, is the applicant to make a statement to us, please.
Okay, so shall I just start off from my perspective, then just introduce Harry? Would that be okay?
However you'd like to do it.
Okay, yeah, sorry, it's a bit...
We want you to do your best.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. It's always a bit... it's a bit daunting, don't mind if I stand up. So, if I can just introduce... Oh.
For
okay.
the microphone, I think you'll need to sit. If
Right,
Mr Sahota, if you could move the microphone over a little so that your colleague can...
There you go. Okay, we've got it. So I could just kind of introduce myself. I'm John Hutchinson. I'm a local chap. I was born and bred in Worcester. I still live in the city, and I have to say I love this city. The premises I've owned since around 2000, whereby I used to operate a shop from there, and thereafter it became a bookmakers. Trade was pretty sort of crabby for the bookmakers, and they eventually closed, and the shop came into disrepair. The Northern Quarter project was kicked off, you know, so in probably terms of timing, it was actually, it was a really good news story. So the shop was remarketed, and I had various applicants actually apply to actually take the shop on. Some were good, some not so good. Obviously, some sort of failed at the due diligence stage. When I was undertaking the due diligence, because I own 6 flats above the shop, I actually also spoke to the tenants in there to kind of get some feedback from there. For example, one of the applicants was a supermarket, and I thought, well, this may be good, you know, good for the tenants, etc. But the supermarket kind of went by the by, really, just you know, but due to the size of the shop, in truth. The tenants overwhelmingly supported actually a quality restaurant coupled with a takeout operation actually going underneath. Thereafter, I actually went to have a look at their operations around the sort of country, various bits and bobs. So I made the decision actually to kind of support the faraway application and actually to grant a lease. I do understand some of the concerns about antisocial behaviour, and actually I support this process, what we're doing. I have got many friends who actually are in police, retired and existing, so I understand the concerns, and I get some of the issues around Angel Street. My view from a landlord's perspective is that when you have a new premises, which is forming part of the gentrification of this area with the latest technology, CCTV, high resolution, sound recording, etc., it will aid to disperse crowds because it will pull them into a calm atmosphere. And also we have CCTV, which definitely acts as a deterrent, and I'm sure that's something the police would agree with. Some of the things which are actually, which has been really useful, because you've sent various images through, so some of my tenants historically have actually complained about engines running, cars banging, etc. And what's actually been shown, actually overnight in the early hours, it's being used as an illegal taxi rank. So when you look at the street, it's full of taxis, they're all parking there, and with taxis, that clearly attracts people to jump in the cabs to go home, and sometimes that brings trouble amongst it. Clearly, I haven't got statistics, so, you know, I can't put numbers on it. It's not something I do. So on that basis, from a owner's perspective, and I'm not a serial landlord, by the way, this is my pension fund, from an owner's perspective and part of the regeneration for that part of Worcester, I think it's going to bring nothing but positivity. And I don't say that lightly, I genuinely believe that.
I'd like to step in now. My name is Harbinder Sahota. I've been working for Fireway for just over a year. This is now my 5th store, advancing on to a considerable amount of experience in the sector. I'm very, very excited to be in Worcester, working with the local authorities. In addition, I always do like to support the local communities with great effect. That's just an important part of my faith. There's been no other objections other than the police. I do understand the police concerns. However, I do have the following factors in place. The state-of-the-art CCTV system, which in actual fact, when we had put in our application for my store in Gloucestershire, the police were thrilled with what we were putting across. And we sort of had the complete opposite effect. We put in our application and they were really excited because, well, in actual fact, what they were having a similar sort of problem. They were having a few of these takeaways, and they were having big groups of people that were just standing outside them. And these takeaways, they were offering, how I'd put it across, a slightly tacky atmosphere. And when we had come across a bright, vibrant, emerging new brand, offering a calming atmosphere, and in a fairly open space layout whereby we had a decent amount of space, we actually brought a massive amount of positive impact to the city, to the town. And since we've been there, we've had nothing but thank yous from the local authorities. The police have been really, really happy with the massive positive impact that we've actually brought to the town. And also, we open a complete open book policy with the local authorities, which the police absolutely love. So in terms of our CCTV system, that's completely open to the police whenever they want to view it. If they need to view it for other matters, it's a complete open book policy, and we work very closely alongside the authorities, which is delegated down to my subject matter specialist who deals with my nighttime economy trade throughout my stores.
I think it's probably worth saying at that point as well, Angel Street is lacking that. So roll back 5 or 6 months ago, actually the window was kicked in the front of the shop, and the CCTV didn't pick up anything, despite, you know, the local authority looking for a week, and there was, you know, £1,200 worth of damage. But at the same time, Shakey's window was kicked in, but that wasn't sort of reported. So it's kind of, you know, I'm not saying one operation is worse than the other, but if you speak to most people, I think if you've got an operation which is serving alcohol, and which can be a bit more problematic.
Also, I'd like to additionally add, we do have an operating schedule in place, which was compiled by my subject matter specialist. As mentioned before, unfortunately, he did go down with COVID last week, so he was unable to make it today. But he will be working very strongly alongside the local authorities to ensure that we're on top of what we need to be on top of. Also, I'd just like to conclude that the business viability does depend on the nighttime economy. Thank you.
And we did mention the seagulls.
Thank you very much. Right, are there any questions for the applicant? And anything from you, Lucy?
I don't think at the moment, no.
Steve?
No question at the moment.
Okay. Does anyone else have questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. In that case, we need to move on to the police, and if you'd like to make your statements, please.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. Thank you and good morning to you all. I'm primarily going to be referring to the Notice of Objection document that was submitted as part of the package and I'll be relaying verbatim to some of those paragraphs and sentences contained within that. But alongside that, I'm also going to be referring to some of the other documents that you've been supplied with, just to add a little bit more meat to the bone, so to speak, with regard to some of the points that we're looking to raise. Thank you, Mr McMenamin, for going over the issues and the point of the cumulative impact area that we are using as the crux of the matter of our argument. Angel Street, as you know, in Worcester, and the immediate locality is one of the main areas of disorder and antisocial behaviour in the city for the nighttime economy, and it's located within the city's cumulative impact zone as outlined by Mr McMenamin and as outlined within the Worcester City Council Statement of Licensing Policy 2019 to 2024 that you've seen. I'm not going to go over any of the major points contained within that document, but I just want to highlight the point that the policy recognises that this cumulative impact of a number of late-night entertainment premises, including cafes, in some areas may result in an increase of people either walking through or congregating in streets during the night. This may in turn have a number of undesirable consequences. For example, an increase in crime against property and or person, an increase in noise causing disturbance to residents, traffic congestion and or parking problems, and littering and fouling. Those points are highlighted and referenced within the policy document, and as such, please have much concern that any new additional premise to be located within this area, as per this application, will greatly exacerbate each of these points, and it will go towards the further undermining of the licensing objectives as we've set out, the prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance. I could also touch on the objective of public safety, but I appreciate that at this moment in time we're looking at these two main points here. So in order to evidence and give more meat to bones with regards to our argument, I'll refer you to the statistical package that is part of your documentation, which has highlighted all recorded crimes and ASB incidents on Angel Street and the surrounding area. And I want to refer to a number of points that are concluded from this data analysis. Just to give you a little bit of context, the methodology with regards to this analysis has been completed by one of our intelligence analysts responsible for the area of South Worcestershire, and the focus that we wanted to gain the data from is as per page 2 of that, i.e. the main streets within the cumulative impact zone, which we're looking at are Angel Street, Angel Place, the Foregate, the Cross and St Nicholas Street. As I understand, as per the City Council's policy, Angel Street falls within the special policy area within that cumulative impact zone, which highlights it as more of an area of focus for us. The data that's been provided in the package is for the period 26th of June 2021 and 26th of June 2022. We were loath to go back any further than that due to the impact of COVID. And of course, 6 months to 12 months gives us a good contemporaneous sort of idea of what's been going on recently in the area. This data has been researched via police reporting systems. You'll see reference in the methodology with regards to SAFE incidents. SAFE is what we call our SOB, Safe Police Reporting System, whereby members of the public report any issues to police and a relevant incident is created on the police recording system. Each of those incidents are graded between 1 to 5, and it depends on that grading, depends on what the police response is given to that incident. They haven't been refined to any specific gradings. The incidents that we've got from this data relate to certain tags, shall we say, that are applied during the search criteria. For example, we've got AS, there's an AS tag that relates to any antisocial behaviour, an AS tag which is nuisance communications, an AS which relates to any public order, and another AS tag for trespass and vehicle nuisance. So we're looking at all of those types of incidents from our SOB, Safe Recording System. On top of this, we have an Athena system that records recorded crime, and some of the data has also arisen from that system also. As you can see on page 3 of the document, which is entitled An Overview of Crime and Aggravating Factors on Selected Streets, for the 5 previously mentioned, we have a total of 457 crimes stroke incidents that have been recorded against the 5 main streets of focus that we're looking at within the cumulative impact zone, Angel Street being one of those. As you can see, out of the total of 457 of those 5 streets, Angel Street is ranked second with 103 of those incidents recorded against it. I'm not going to go in any further detail with regards to the crime tree breakdown, aggravating factors, etc., etc. I think initially that point with regards to where Angel Street itself lies on that ranking is substance enough. If we quickly jump across to the repeat establishments, the only thing I'm going to refer to, and I appreciate we are talking about a new application here, but I think it's relevant, and we've already touched on the neighbouring premises to the applicant's potential premises being Shakey's. That's one premise that is on there that's ranked in the top for incidents of crime being recorded against it. We have concerns that we've already got issues with regards to a premise there. This is not going to assist with this application. I've touched on the notice of objection that the main aggravating factors identified for these crimes that I've just referred to out of that 457 are violence, public place, alcohol-related and violence licensed premises, all of which are very, very indicative of the nighttime economy issues that we as the police face at this moment in time. If I refer you to page 5, which is the temporal analysis data for violence with and without injury on selected streets. This shows us a breakdown of the actual peak periods for recorded crime on Saturday and Sunday evenings, which you can see are between 0200 and 0400 hours. Police are concerned with regards to the applicant's proposal to remain open in his premise until 0500. We have concerns that this is just going to add to the current issues that we have there. The next page I want to refer you to is page 7, if I may, which is the AS, in fact, no, apologies, page 6, which relates to the recorded violence with injury crimes recorded across South Worcestershire. This gives you a ranking of the top locations, postcode based, for 2,738 recorded violence with injury crimes that have been recorded across South Worcestershire. Of interest there, that of those top locations, Angel Place and Angel Street are ranked within the top 6 locations for such offences. So again, we just want to highlight the impact that Angel Street alone has at this current moment in time. In terms of antisocial incidents, as per page 7, that's what I was referring to, those with applied markers including antisocial behaviour, nuisance communications, public order, trespass and vehicle as referred to earlier, they've been applied to postcode areas. Angel Street is ranked first across all locations within South Worcestershire, and that is a very, very key point for ourselves here. We're talking about everywhere, South Worcestershire, both urban areas and rural. Angel Street, as you can see, has got a big issue at this moment in time, which police are trying to address. It is having a big impact in terms of police resourcing and management of any offences that are currently ongoing there, and we are concerned that a new application of a similar fast food type outlet, accepting the applicant's comments with regards to this being a high-end premise, is simply going to add to and exacerbate the problems that we already have. Moving on from the data, and just to again further illustrate this point, I just want to refer you to the still images that have been provided to you within your pack. This is just a cross-section example of what it looks like in Angel Street between certain times. That data has been collated since the beginning of June. As you know, the town is serviced by Wychavon CCTV Command and Control Centre. They monitor all of the CCTV cameras within Worcester City, and they've been tasked to provide and do a snapshot of still images to show the congestion in Angel Street in the early hours of a Saturday morning and a Sunday morning. Those still images are provided up to present, but the newer images that I show, and you've just been provided to today, are from last weekend, and we wanted to add that to our documentation for you because that actually shows the impact of an actual incident occurring at 02:58 hours on the 24th of July. The CCTV itself, a couple of other specific days I would like to refer you to. The 9th of July, for example, we have one at 5:38 hours. You can see clearly there, we've still got a congregation of people outside at 05:38 in the morning, where we have council city cleaners out and about, nighttime economy patrons still present. 17th of July images, they show that Angel Street is particularly busy. And as I referred to already, the 24th of July show a number of incidents where we've got an incident of disorder and significant crowding outside the current fast food premises already located in Angel Street. I need to make the point, and the crowd at this moment in time is always congregated outside of the fast food premise known as Shakey's. The applicant's premise is going to be going directly next door to that premise. And I want to bring the point that the applicant is suggesting that his business proposal will assist in the sharing out or the smoothing out of congregations within that area. We struggle to see how that's going to occur, accepting that the activities that are occurring in Angel Street are down to the patrons themselves primarily, not to the business holders, but we can't get away from the fact that we've got large crowds in the early hours of the morning already in Angel Street, and no matter what form of premise we have, between two fast food premises already, that is only going to be exacerbated. You can already see, committee, the issues we have with regards to public safety with the traffic and the taxi locations. There are images with police officers being present. There's lots of drunken activity going on in that street that unfortunately we are of the opinion is going to be further exacerbated by this application. So in line with our concerns and as part of our process as a licensing team, PC Brooks here as the licensing PC initially took it upon himself, as is part of the process, to have a conversation with the applicant to ascertain what his proposed business model was going to be. That discussion occurred in the beginning of June. During that communication, as has been stated today, the application made reference to his business being a franchise and that the proposed premise is described as a fast food pizza restaurant, but the business brand was being one of a chilled nature which provides quality foods and one which he does not associate as a normal fast food shop. We totally accept those sentiments in terms of what he's saying, but despite the proposal of providing an ambient atmosphere that's going to improve the current nature of the locality, as I've shown by the stats and the images already, we fear that that is not simply going to be the case. Lots of reference has been made with regards to the applicant and the installation of HD CCTV. As I've already allayed to, Angel Street has good coverage, as you can see, by the current City Council CCTV systems that are in place. Yes, if this application was approved, police would be strongly asking for the implementation of high-quality CCTV, which is a par for the course for this. That's all good and well for within the premise. I will question the point raised that the provision of CCTV provides as a calmer for nighttime economy patrons, as is evidenced in the images that we already see and the data that shows that despite those systems already being in place, we are still having ongoing issues. So from a police perspective, that negates the applicant's argument with regards to his CCTV being a calming effect. If I'm able to, on this point, also to refer to the business proposal submitted by the applicant, which was received some time after the police objection was noted by the official processes. I'd just like to refer to a couple of points contained within that document. The first one being under the licensing objective of crime and disorder, and I fully appreciate and acknowledge the provision of this by the applicant. It shows that lots of good thought has gone into it. However, the main point I'd like to refer the committee to is the point under door supervisors, which is included on the measures that the applicant is proposing to undertake to meet the licensing objectives. We've already touched on CCTV, but I think it's very important to raise the point with regards to the employment of door supervisors at the applicant's premise. Within that document, you will see that the applicant has stated that he will undertake to employ door supervisors only when absolutely necessary and at times when a public performance event activity takes place nearby, such as a live music or an entertainment event that is being carried out, and that we consider them necessary for employment. Unfortunately, police have much concern with regards to this proposal. The premise next door to where the applicant's premise is proposed to be already has door supervision. We are already seeing the sort of incidents and the issues that we currently have, despite the provision of that. The applicant makes reference to his staff being trained appropriately, undertaking risk assessments within the property, and that they would be able to manage the spill out of customers and also to deal with any aggressive behaviour contained or experienced within the premise. Referring to crime prevention schemes, if you haven't found that committee under point 3, staff will be trained in diffusing hostile situations should they ever experience this. Unfortunately, we have, as police, experienced a number of incidents in Angel Street where current door supervisors and police are subjected to violence. We certainly would be raising much issue if the application was supported without the employment of specific SIA door supervision to be able to deal with those situations that unfortunately are going to occur at the premise. As we can see, the nighttime economy patrons, it's gaining, it's a snowball effect that we're seeing at this moment in time on the back of COVID, where we saw a very calm period of time. Patrons and businesses are seeing an uplift in business, and we're seeing an increase in crowds, particularly over the summer period. We'll continue to do so for the rest of this year, where people are simply making the most of a lack of COVID social distancing restrictions, and they are going out having a good time, they're getting drunk, and altercations are occurring. We have much concern over the suitability and ability of the applicant to manage such crowds as and when and if the premises application is supported. So, in terms of the proposed opening times of the premise, until 5 o'clock in the morning, we can already see we've got crowding until 5 AM. That is just simply going to add to the noise disruption, further potential for criminal offences and ASB, impacting both on local community residents and other attendees through the city if this application is supported. As is alluded to by Mr Harrison, police are also aware of the location of residential flats being located directly above the premise, situated within the same building. We appreciate that assurances have been made by the applicant that this is not going to be a relevant factor. I would raise a point, I don't know where, but I think I've seen that those tenants, Mr Harrison might be able to clarify in due course, the nature of those tenants, whether they are permanent, semi-permanent, whether they are from the student community that we have within the city. I don't know whether the information gained is current by him in terms of his approach to those residents, but a recent survey carried out by our local neighbourhood team within the street revealed that concerns were raised by a local resident and business owner who basically was very concerned with regards to this proposal. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the most negative impact on you, on the basis of a series of questions, this guy replied to, what is the overall impact of the current nighttime economy and businesses in Angel Street on you as a resident? 5 being the most impacted. And he makes reference to being unable to sleep between 3 and 6 at this moment in time due to current crowding and noise issues experienced. And he also makes reference to the early morning disgusting mess from litter and the like being left by patrons. Again, appreciably, the applicant refers to that in his operating procedures, where he's going to state that staff are going to go out and collect any litter. I bring it back to the point that we aren't going to be able to attribute what issues are occurring in Angel Street to any one premise. The applicant's premise is going to be one of 3 that we already have there. We've already got McDonald's up the road, which has got 24-hour opening. Unfortunately, despite the best efforts, the applicant's not going to be able to say, well, these people aren't people that have attended my premise if they've caused issue. It's just going to be a free-for-all, and unfortunately difficult for us to manage from a policing perspective in terms of identifying any of those offenders and attributing them to any of the premises, including the applicants. As part of the process, we have also had the application assessed by our Design Out Crime Officer. So our Design Out Crime Officer is an officer who addresses instances or subjects of planning across South Worcestershire, She will also attend locations and do security surveys on residential and business premises who have been subjected to criminal activity, repeat victims, that sort of nature. She has made reference, and it's as quoted in our notice of objection, whereby she makes reference to having seen no conditions attached to the building that this premise application is. She does make reference that there are residential flats above the premise, as we know, but she has concerns in relation to the application. And again, she reiterates the fact that Angel Street has one of the highest rates of crime and disorder within Worcester City, therefore effective management to ensure safety for all customers and staff, the open plan layout and limited seating may add to possible disorder. In her opinion, she feels that the proposed times are inappropriate and that these must be varied if any application is supported, and this would enable the applicant to demonstrate that the venue can operate effectively. And she makes reference to a review period. Now, I appreciate that we're not in the realms of that at this moment in time, but the stance is that we simply want this application rejected due to the issues that we've related to. I was going to touch on the points of the purple flag status that the city is recently going through the process of trying to achieve, and also the work that's been going on with regards to the Safer Streets initiative that you may, as councillors, know and be aware of within Worcester City, where we have managed to gain funding for lots of improved developments in the city to try and reduce the instances of violence against women and girls, which is a national topic at this moment in time. We are of the opinion that, despite the applicant's reassurances, this application will not assist at this moment in time, with the nature as it is in Angel Street, of improving the location. So in terms of a summary, we fully acknowledge that the applicant has a living to make and that he has other similar shops in other cities which he's able to refer to. We appreciate his willingness to work towards a safe establishment with his intent not being in question at all. It is in fact the wider Angel Street issue of ASB that causes police concerns. It is fact that this location is the epicentre of ASB and criminality within the city nighttime economy model, and any additional premises that are seeking to benefit from the NTE as a business model, as per the applicant's proposed model, particularly those that are looking to remain open into the early hours, will simply fuel the current issues that are being experienced. It's unfortunate that the applicant has opted to choose this site prior to completing full research around the location beforehand. If that communication had been had, then we may not be sat here today. Other options within the Worcester City would probably have been a lot more viable.
Could you wind it?
And
I've
that
given you a little
is
bit
the end
extra
now. That is the end
time.
now, Councillor.
Okay.
Sorry, yes, that is the end of our summary. So that puts it all in a one final little summary there, paragraph for you. Was that half an hour? Half an hour, apologies.
Obviously, you're very keen to do your job, but right. Questions?
First of all, I just need some clarification. Is this establishment also serving drinks as well as food, late night?
No alcohol.
Are you referring to alcohol?
Yes. Yes.
No, it
so
isn't
it's
an
just-
application for alcohol. No, it's
it's just
simply
food.
an application for late night refreshments and also regulated entertainment by way of recorded music.
And also, perhaps the police, what type of establishment would you be happy with?
I think, Chair and Committee, I think we can only have an establishment that's not going to be open until the early hours. The crux of the problem is crime peaks are between 2 and 5 in the morning. We simply would be looking at any premise to be closed by certainly 1 AM, the latest, at the end of the day. We acknowledge that there are ongoing issues within Angel Street that we are going to be looking at addressing and that have been under focus for quite some time. I'm not going to make specific reference, but we have already referred to a premise within that location that's been under scrutiny, and again, COVID has hampered some of that work that's been ongoing. So I think there's a lot more work to be done before we're ever going to be in a position to support any premises with a business model as proposed by the applicant, to remain open until 5 in the morning or the early hours of the morning on a weekend, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
Not specifically, no.
Okay, and the applicant, do you want to ask any questions of the police?
Yeah, if I could add to that, you know, when we look at Angel Street, Angel Place, that area, you know, it was desperate for regeneration. You know, in the council have grabbed the bull by the horns, you know, you secured government funding, and we all acknowledged it needs it and it's happening. And I think at what point, you know, as part of regeneration, you know, it becomes a positive. You know, all I hear is negativity about Angel Place, negativity about Angel Street. Oh, it's a hive of antisocial behaviour. And there are issues, and the statistics don't lie. You know, but if you look at what's happened by the Gifford, you know, you've got the cocktail bars there. It's turned into a great positive for the city. And this is happening with the Northern Quarter now. The Swan Theatre is actually moving into the old Scala. I believe there might be a dance studio opposite with a rooftop restaurant on there. So with regeneration comes opportunities. But the truth is, the opportunities there, you know, we've made reference to a fast food takeaway. It isn't a fast food takeaway. You know, I actually, because that was one of my concerns as the owner, I did not want, you know, the fast food takeaway as part of my due diligence. And actually, when you see a restaurant with 26, 28 seating and whatever it is, actually offering also a takeout service, it's a positive. Theatre goers, when they come out, admittedly it'll be before 2 o'clock, it's a positive for the area. And all part of this regeneration, and you see it down the bottom of the shambles now. You know, the police were against people sitting on the pavement, drinking on the pavement. Now you see people sitting on the pavement, you know, the European type culture. Again, it's the perception about, you know, the image. And yes, the image is problematic. The stats demonstrate that. But going forward, part of regeneration, you know, it has to happen. And it has to happen for the city. And it's going to also benefit from the arches as well, the whole area. And I think it's incredibly exciting. And with regard to the, you know, you made reference to, you spoke to one tenant in Angel Street. Well, I mean, you know, one tenant out of, I don't know how many live down there, how many people live there. I mean, the tenants in my property, they're professionals, everybody is on a short old agreed tenancy. I've had students there, I've got professionals there now. They live in the city centre, they accept the city centre's noisy.
So what was your question to the police?
So the question to the police was, coming back to the type of establishment which you believe should be there, if you want a retail type operation in that area, it isn't going to happen. If you're offering a restaurant, you're not going to open a restaurant in the shambles. So it's kind of the question, it is still, you know, what would you really want to see happen to these derelict buildings? Would you like it to continue to be run down? Because there are other empty shops there as well.
Not at all, committee. Of course, we accept that, yeah, Angel Street is going to need that redevelopment at some point. And at what point do you have that start-off point? I just think that it's the business model in terms of the opening to 0500 hours and the applicant stating that a lot of his business is based on that nighttime economy business that is the issue here. There are different levels of our nighttime economy business. When we're talking about restaurants that are closed at 11 or 12 o'clock, that's the sort of properties and businesses we're looking at for that regeneration. And I'd like to think that the Worcester bid, who did provide us with some comment, would be able to assist with regards to that and the purple flag. You know, we are in the realm of fast food outlets, which this isn't, but the opening times until 5 in the morning is the issue. If we had a restaurant that is closed by 11 or 12 o'clock, that's the sort of property that I think Angel Street needs to start that regeneration model.
People can't afford it though. I mean, restaurants, I hear what you're saying, but most people, you know, that formal sat down type restaurant accept what you're saying, but it's different.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Sorry, I've given you a little bit of leeway on this. Can I just say, it's for the subcommittee to determine the application that is before them. It's not for them to determine what would be acceptable or to consider what would be acceptable. I've given you a little bit of leeway, but I think if we close that line of questioning down now and stick to the application that they're considering.
Could I raise a question for the police?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
I completely understand the points put across by the police. I completely understand the statistics put across, and yes, of course, being part of the town, you'd be concerned for it, and that's understandable. I respect this procedure. So my point comes back down to our application has no direct correlation with increased footfall for the area, right? I don't feel like that has any direct correlation with having increased footfall for the area, but just dealing with the footfall that's currently there at the moment. Therefore, moves on to the point of the dispersation of the people across the food establishments to assist with the current issues at hand, which has been, with my track record, I would like to emphasize, with the track record of my Gloucestershire store, which we have proven with success, exactly the exact issues that Gloucestershire police were facing with large crowds in front of takeaways, etc. That was the exact situation that was at hand to Gloucestershire police. We've come across and we've provided a massive positive impact, and the police have been thrilled with our work. They're absolutely amazed with our work, and they're so happy that we brought that positive impact to the town. So my question, because look, at the end of the day, I feel like it's going to strongly look to reduce the larger crowds. So my question comes back to how does this application, what we're putting across, look to not assist with the current issues at hand, especially when it's been proven and the track record is there.
The CTV is external as well as internal, and it's also voice recording.
And that's full backing up. This is.
Okay, so
What we just can't get away from, Chair and committee members and the applicant, is that Angel Street is the draw from all areas of Worcester City for the nighttime economy patrons when they come out of the respective nightclubs. As we know, people have had, once they've consumed alcohol, their next step is to get fast food or some form of food. The restaurants that we're talking about that will provide that image that we want in there don't supply that. And unfortunately, accepting what the applicant's saying, there's going to be no stop of those patrons. And when we're talking about 3, 4, 5, 600, 700 people, accepting not all of those crowds attend Angel Street, they're already drawn to that. And with the location of another outlet, whether the perception is high brand pizza or not, it's another outlet that these patrons can gain food from, and they're going to attend Angel Street and exacerbate the crowding we already have.
thank you. Stephen, you wanted to ask another?
Yes, I wonder if I've got two questions. First of all, to the
Police.
representative of the police. Yeah, on page 31 of the report we've been given, there's a sentence that says, "In my opinion, I feel the proposed times could be varied. This would enable the applicant to demonstrate that the venue can operate effectively to ensure any impact on crime and disorder can be monitored. This could be reviewed in 12 to 18 months." So what sort of variation time would you consider acceptable?
Yes, I think, yeah. Technology is not good for me. Yes, accepting the comments there, and that's something that we have been open to working with premises on previous occasions. I think, as I say, we need to be looking at, if that is ever a consideration, our line's going to be midnight stroke 0100 hours in terms of allowing a premise to stay open there. And then if we give it a review period and there were no issues caused with regards to that, that's when we would start thinking about extensions, etc. And that's the intimation made by the Disorderly Crime Officer there. So if your question is what time do we want, if this was accepted, the premise to stay open till no later than 1 o'clock, which isn't going to fit in with the business model anyway. Okay. We need to start addressing that high-end business and doing away with the opening into the early hours.
Okay, and then the question to the applicant, your proposal time is to 5 a.m. in the morning. What is the rationale for staying open to 5 a.m. in the morning compared to, say, an earlier time?
it's down to the business model itself. It's the viability of making the business model work. To be able to pay our expenses and to be able to be viable. The nighttime economy is a considerable part of the business model. I think that it really comes back down to the viability of being able to run the model itself.
I think the reality is it won't be open till 5 o'clock every morning. But to cover all eventualities off, so for example, Freshers Week, you know, the Sunday before a bank holiday Monday is busy in Worcester City Centre. So I know when Harry discussed with me about opening it now, I had a very open conversation about music, you know, and I've got the reassurance, you know, the speakers play down, it's actually background music, because that was a conversation I had. And I think one of the things you actually said, look, is to cover the eventualities off, you know, rather than reapply, you know, for a licence on a specific day or a specific week. But I think the truth of the matter is, I guess on the Tuesday and the Wednesday and possibly other days, I mean, you were saying earlier about, you know, you wouldn't pay staff there to twiddle their fingers.
Thank you.
Could I just ask another question to the police?
Yeah.
Is that it? I'm struggling to understand here how our application is not going to have a positive impact on these larger crowds, which has been proven, right? So these larger crowds, I'm really struggling to understand here how having the exact amount of whatever the footfall is coming into the street, clearly the larger crowds are what the issue is. I struggle how we are not going to have a positive impact towards that. It's quite black and white, I feel like. It's okay, cool, yes, larger crowds, but another food establishment, the larger crowds are going to be spread, right? Which would then help to then tackle the prevention of crime and disorder, because you're going to have less larger crowds, right? And then less people together, which then further on to the point of the nuisance, hopefully calming down as well. So that's my how our application is not going to have a positive impact on these larger crowds. That is my question.
Lucy.
The police commented about door supervisors. Are you going to employ door supervisors when you are open?
As previously mentioned, I'm an open book policy with the police. I work very closely with the authorities. In Gloucestershire, the conversation that was had with the police was, if ever need be, and if ever any scenario was to come about, we would be more than open to employ door supervisors whenever necessary. If you told me, look, the situation here there's a certain situation that's happening here, we're undergoing these issues, whatnot, we're more than happy to be working alongside you guys, and you said to me, look, I want door supervisor at this day on these times, we're more than happy to be working alongside. So
I'm not so much, I'm talking about day to day. I'm not talking about the police. I'm talking about day to day.
Yeah.
Are you going to be employing a door supervisor for most of the time, or only at specific times? And even then, you don't know exactly what.
My direct answer to that is it dependent on the situation and the circumstances that are to hand. Whatever the circumstances are to hand, we will play accordingly, and we're more than happy to be working strongly alongside the authorities to ensure that we are putting in the utmost plans of action to ensure that we are staying on top of what we need to stay on top of.
I think the answer to the question, sorry, I am going to sort of interject. The answer to the question is part of the business plan in what part of the sort of application, there isn't or the day-to-day door supervisors aren't being employed. However, as part of the ongoing review, and again, you know, if it deems to be working closely with the police, look, you know, you need door supervision, Harry is committed to having door supervisors, you know, perhaps on certain days, certain times. Whether or not that's a condition of a licence, he wasn't sure. That was the kind of, you know, so the answer is initially no. Shorter term, if need be. Longer term, yes.
Sorry for the confusion.
A question specifically for the applicant. We note this, I presume that is your premise?
Yes, that is
Yeah.
correct.
Are you getting any seating, or is it all just takeaway? Because according to this, the picture, there's no seating.
We will be installing seating. This is a picture of midway through the project, midway through the fit out. We will be looking to get around about 30 odd seats. So the answer to that question is yes, there will be seating, and as the legislation showcases, anything above 16 seats is classed as a restaurant.
It's probably worth saying as well, if I've actually had a print of the seating area and a mixture of booths, etc., because the property isn't fully restored at the moment. You know, we're talking in excess of 6 figures so far to do that, but yeah.
Right. And going back to your question to us about why we are... Obviously, you said that it could be beneficial for the area to have your establishment. At the moment, due to the issues that the police have highlighted, the police don't believe that, at least in the short term, that it would be, but they seem to have quite a positive longer term view that once that area starts to improve with the area going up, then that would be something that actually I'm a bit paraphrasing, but that they would see that then your venture would not be the problem that it could be at this point in time. Is that how I'm reading the police discussion?
Yeah, I think so, Chair. We're not against the fostering of business and business opportunity within the city, and we accept there's lots of regeneration going on, and that I've already referred to Purple Flag. That's a process that's ongoing. We know about the arches. I think the issue that we have, and I've touched on previously, it's the issue around the late night or early hours, nighttime economy, patron issue that we have. Accepting where we are with this, it's simply a no-go for this moment in time. There are too many issues. There's too much impact on policing and other emergency services. Angel Street, the sharing out of the crowds, etc. It's just not a space at this moment in time that's going to facilitate any improvement.
Thank you. Okay.
Would you not say if the crowds are together, it's easier to manage?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it only takes one bad word within a crowd to start off something, as per the images on the 24th of July, just this last weekend. One small amount of words that occur blows up into something big. You already referred to the criminal damage that was caused to a neighbouring property. It's drunk and alcohol fueled behaviour that all of us in this room are very shocked by. We see it on a day-to-day basis, no matter what premises.
Would you also agree, though, part of the problem is actually the illegal taxi rank, which is now being used the entire street, and once that's moved, that will pull crowds away, because when you look at your stats, your highest level is by the taxi rank around the corner.
I think that's for another day, the taxi
Okay,
problem.
so it was just a question. We're talking about
taxis
the crowds
as well.
Yeah.
So that's obviously the fact that most of the taxi ranks are in that sort of area is an issue that we're looking at the moment. But obviously we need to stay at this matter in hand as it exists at present.
I would like to can I highlight one more point? Is that okay?
Sorry?
Can I highlight one more point? Can I ask another question?
Well, as long as it's something new, because I was going to ask you to have any final words. So,
I would just like to question how, with the proven track record of the exact same scenario that was happening in Gloucestershire, how we have turned that around and in fact provided a positive impact, how that is not being emphasised as a massive point here. I struggle how the police are not understanding how we've actually made a positive impact on the exact same scenario that was being faced in another town, to tackle the exact same issues that were currently happening. So the track record's there, the success is there. We haven't had a single issue. The police are overwhelmed with the impact that we have had. How this is not being taken into accordance is really struggling to understand.
Could I just check with the police? Have you actually been in touch with the Gloucestershire people to see what their take was?
Yes, we have, Chair. My colleague PC Brooks here spoke with one of the licensing officers in Gloucester City Centre, who was able to confirm that the premise there at this moment in time hadn't caused any ASB issues.
I think it's a recently opened premise.
Yeah.
So, and at this time there was no incidents attributed to it.
But as I say, we can't make comment with regards to that. Totally accepting, and it's very commendable that it's working out there. But that's a different geographical area. Gloucester's got different issues to what Worcester City has. Gloucester's stages of development, I'm sure, are different to ours that I can't make any comment on. The crux of the matter is that Angel Street is our ASB hotspot at this moment in time, and it's unfortunate the applicant's looking at a premise there. And as I've said, if he'd have probably had those conversations beforehand and had looked at other potential premises, we probably wouldn't be here today.
Thank you. Okay, so I think the applicant's had a final say. Go for it.
So I'd just like to conclude and say that I strongly believe that our application, what we're looking to put across, is going to have a huge positive impact to the current issues at hand, to the town, and I'm very, very excited to be part of Worcester. I'm not originally from Worcester. I'm from down towards London. I've come up towards here in the hope of setting up a future for my family. All of these towns are new to me, and I am so strongly with the fact that we're going to have a massive positive impact. And I think that's a great thing for the town. And the business model itself, authentic Italian pizza, this is a slightly upper class food, calzones, pizzas, and I just feel like the vibe that we're looking to bring, and the model itself, and the current issues at hand alongside with the trackage, I'm just so, I really emphasise with my excitement for the town, and you know what, I'm excited. I'm very excited, and I am really, really committed to work alongside the authorities. I'm so committed towards that. We've got a subject matter specialist in the sector that, you know what, will assist to even look to, if need be, assist with some issues that are not even to do with our premises. Wherever the assistance is there required, we're more than happy to commit and be a part and assist, because look, at the end of the day, I've come to this town, I want the town to be better, I want it to be a happier place to live, I want these issues to be minimised. So I'm all against trying to make the town a better place, and strongly believe that the massive positive impact that we can look to bring.
Thank you. Right, licensing officer, would you like to make any final statements?
Thank you, Chair, members. Yes, you've now had an opportunity. You're here today to consider an application for a new premises licence. It's for licensable activities, late night refreshment, recorded music, and the hours are until 5 a.m. You've had the opportunity to hear from the police, who've presented statistics and data in relation to crime and disorder in the area. You've had a presentation from the applicant themselves, who have put across their business model and their intentions. The application or the premises is situated right in the middle of a community of impact zone, the special policy that Worcester City has. So you must take that into consideration, and I took time to explain how that works earlier in the presentation. So you have to consider this application with a view to promoting the licensing objectives, again, which I mentioned earlier. So members, you are asked to consider this application in line with the council's policy and with the intention of promoting the licensing objectives, and that's the matter before you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. The legal side.
Just to repeat again, you're obliged to determine the application with promotion of licensing objectives, which I'll just go through again: prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of harm. Again, I'll just underline the two particular relevance on this one are prevention of crime and disorder. Apologies. The two that are particularly relevant to this application are the prevention of crime and disorder and the prevention of public nuisance. In making your decision, you're also obliged to have regard to the guidance issued by the Secretary of State under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003 and the Council's own Statement of Licensing Policy. Again, I'll just underline the particular relevance to this is the cumulative impact. And in accordance with that policy, any application for a grant of a new premises licence which would add to the cumulative impact will normally be refused, and it is for the applicant to show that the licensable activities which have been applied for will not add to the cumulative impact. You must have regard to the representations made and the evidence that you've heard. And in summary, that's what's contained in the report, the additional documents that were presented by both parties and both parties' oral representations today. I'll remind you that you're obliged to consider the application that is before you. I think we did have a few little parts where we strayed slightly from that, and a little bit of leeway was given, but remind you that you're here to determine the application that is before you. You must take one of the following steps that you consider appropriate: grant the application as requested, modify the conditions of the licence by altering or omitting or adding to them, or reject the application in whole or in part. You're asked to note and be reminded that you may not modify the conditions or reject the whole or part of the application merely because it is desirable. It must actually be appropriate in order to promote one of the licensing objectives, or all of them. All parties to the hearing will be notified of the subcommittee's decision in writing within 5 or 7 working days at the conclusion of the hearing, and any party aggrieved by a decision taken can appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days of being notified of that decision in writing. And just to remind, a oral decision will be given today, so you will get an oral indication as to what the decision is, and the full written decision will then follow in writing within about 5 or 7 working days.
Thank you. In that case, we will go into closed session to make a decision. So if you could vacate, please, so we can consider our options. Thank you for your patience. I'm sorry it took a bit longer to discuss than anticipated. First of all, I'd like to say that your application is welcome in Worcester, and we are going to grant a modified licence to you, and that is based on the information received from the police. Obviously, we have to take serious consideration of that. So if I ask the legal bod to go through the details.
Okay, as I explained earlier, you'll get the oral version of it now. You'll get the full written version in about 5 to 7 working days. But the modified conditions are the opening hours be till 1 a.m. every day, and door supervision be required from at least 11 p.m. until closing on the working days that start on Friday and Saturday going into the next day, and on any bank holidays, again, starting on the evening of the bank holiday going into the next day. As I said, you'll get a full written decision notice within about 5 to 7 working days, and any party aggrieved by the decision taken by the subcommittee may appeal against the decision to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days of receiving the decision in writing, and full details of that will be in the decision notice.
Thank you. Thank you. That's it.